Tech Fest. Delighted to be joined by a new presenter we haven't had before, but with a very well-known company and a future print partner. It's Global Graphics Software. I'd like to welcome Eric Worrell. Eric, you are the VP of Product and Services at Global Graphics Software. So welcome, Eric. Whereabouts are you right now?
Right now, I'm in the Camborne office, just outside Cambridge. Yep. I came in because it's nice and quiet, so hopefully no dogs barking in the background.
Yeah, I think we've all seen a few presentations where unruly dogs have taken part, which can be quite amusing, but really difficult for the presenter. Obviously, Global Graphics are a well-known name, as I already said, famous for innovations such as Harlequin, which has really defined software in a lot of OEMs around the industry and stuff. And obviously, as the business moves on, we've got a focus with the Future Print Tech Fest. It's about developing new technology for new applications. So as a result, this session, I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. It's how to integrate inkjet into the smart factory. I think we all recognise that moving forward, the smart factory is going to become a reality, not just a concept. So, interested in hearing a bit more about that. So you've already said you're in Campbell, near Cambridge, obviously as a real rich place for innovation in inkjet. Tell us a bit about yourself and your role at Global Graphics.
Yeah, so I've been at Global Graphics for about 16 years. Kind of started in support, which was a great place to learn about our products and our customers. And then moved up through different positions through product management, and then through to leading a group of a service group inside the company who help our customers' engineers take our technology and put it into their solutions. And then eventually, I now head up the product group as well. So I up the product group that has Mako and Harlequin, as you mentioned earlier, Screen Pro. A direct product which we launched last year, and also this new smart DFE product that we're talking about for the smart factory. So I've been at the company for about 16 years.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've seen a fair amount of change since then. And I think you studied initially engineering, is that right?
Yeah, I started with a Bachelor of Engineering degree. That went on to do a bit of research into speech recognition. Then worked for a company that did machine vision for inspection, that kind of thing. And that was then bought up by Videojet. So I was in the inkjet build business, if you like, very early on. And then short stint at Canon, and then started at Global Graphics.
Yeah, it's give you a nice rounded kind of experience working with hardware as well as software, which is cool.
Yeah.
Actually, Global Graphics, just to help us understand, Global Graphics Software is actually a part of the group, isn't it? So obviously the group's expanded and stuff. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so Global Graphics Software, I guess, is the original company, and Global Graphics PLC is the group company, and there are a number of other companies that have been added in over the last, say, 4 or 5 years. The first one was Meteor Inkjet, and they do driver electronics for print heads. Amongst other things, they also have quite sophisticated software for driving the data path, that kind of thing. We've also bought Zytron, which is a company that uses our RIP and actually produced a complete package, if you like, an end user package. But they've had some really good experience in sort of the industrial space where we're going. And they're also experts, or they have the capability to link with memjet heads. So that's where they kind of fit into the smart DFE world. And then we have hybrid software, and they have a very expansive and complex but capable workflow solution, and also things like job curation, that kind of thing. They also are able to hook up into ERP systems and MIS systems, which is pretty key for this kind of smart factories, smart DFE type world. So so together we have a lot of very strong skills in different areas, but when you bolt them together, they kind of make possible this smart DFE world.
Yeah, so you're building the business seems to be by acquisition, but then you're collaborating to create brand new things that wouldn't have been impossible before, but are just far easier for you and far more able to expedite the process, I'm sure. Obviously, the DFE stands for Digital Front End. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
And this is a software that obviously drives the data to the print heads, which you could say is the brain, to some extent, of the inkjet press. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. It's a difficult term to define because a number of different companies define them in different ways. But basically, it's all a software stack, and in this case, some hardware as well. When we get down to the digital inkjet head driving, bolted together into a single system that delivers everything from job creation through to putting ink on paper. So it's a full software and hardware stack that allows us to do that. And usually, you'll have a sort of UI in front of the printer that's usually driving and configuring the printer and monitoring the printer and that kind of thing, especially with a digital printer, because effectively the all of the work in order to drive the printer is actually on the printer rather than in a pre-press area. So the pre-press area, a lot of the things like ripping has moved onto the printer. So now the DFE is really a key driver of that printer and that press.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's not just a matter. I mean, that's one of the themes of the Tech Fest. Really, is the steps we need to take in order to create the best possible technology solution for any application in any market. Because there are certain steps. It's not just a matter of buying a machine, is it? I mean, if you're talking about inkjet in a brand new manufacturing line or actually on a new material, it's going to take a combination of different things. Obviously, the software, drive electronics is a key part of that. With that in mind, why do we need to rethink the software and the hardware stack really for new markets, for new manufacturing, in order for inkjet to be integrated into these manufacturing sectors?
Okay, so what we're talking about with the smart factory is a fully automated workflow. Everything from job submission through to the delivery of the product at the end. And it all has to be automated all the way through. And we were talking about just a second ago, the fact that the RIP has moved from a pre-press function, generating plates, to a integrated part of the press. And that means that the RIP can now be part of the mechanics of delivering the print. It's not just something that prepares something and then gives it to the press. It's now integrated into the press. So, for instance, if a machine vision system downline decides that the page you've just saw, the item you've just printed is not correct, then that can be fed back up to the RIP again, and the RIP can then re-rip that one item and send it back down again. But it needs to be fully integrated into the line. It can't just be something off to the side. And also, in order to sort of to get these printers to have the return on investment that you want to keep them running all the time. And being able to be part of the running of the press means that we can collect data and we can feed that back into the RIP, and we can feed it also up to monitoring systems to allow us to make sure that the press is running at and producing acceptable quality content or items all the time. So it's really moving the RIP and the software to become an integrated part of the overall process rather than being something that perhaps used to be separated.
Yeah, yes, and actually at the point of the creation of the technology, which means it'll be, strategically more efficient, right, and just more logical.
Yeah. Also, you have to change the way. You have to change the science behind it as well. I don't want to have too much of a tangent, but for instance, when you rip to file, you can rip 1,000 pages and they can come out of order. That's fine, as long as you've got all the rasters at the end of the process. But when you're ripping directly into the printer, all of the rasters have to come in order and then precisely at the right time. And so the ripping behind the scenes is different. It's a streaming rip with all the pages coming in order and making sure that we deliver on time. Whereas the rip that you would have offline would be architected in a different way. So you have to think about things differently, and that's part of this new smart DFE type world.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a term here that you've used before, OPC UA, OPC space UA. What does that mean? What is that?
So it's a technology that's basically used in industry to communicate between components on a production line or components within a whole factory, and also communicate outside the factory between factories. So it's a standard that's been around for a long time. Originally, it was developed back in the 90s, late 90s, but it has gone through a couple of iterations. The UA part of it is universal access, and that part of it meant that it could go outside the factory. It could go and control devices between factories, and it was rebuilt on a whole new stack of open technology. Which meant the original OPC was built on Microsoft technology only, but this UA technology was built on a full set of open technology. But effectively, what it does is it provides a standardized way, and industry loves standardized ways of doing things, to communicate between devices on the factory floor, but also then between factories. So you can get the data flowing out, collect that data, do useful things with it, and also control and run machines in a very unified way.
Right. So that's kind of a critical element of planning, isn't it? I suppose that the aligning with that makes a lot of sense to connect the print subsystem to the wider factory.
Yeah, I mean, there's over 800 companies in the OPC Foundation, 50 million devices connected. So one of the things that OPC allows us is to have a completely standardized way of communicating that's not specifically print-centric, but it is open to pretty much every device on the factory floor. It also gives us an ecosystem of companies, a massive ecosystem, including Amazon and Microsoft and many others, that can, if we supply our data in this way, can already produce things like predictive maintenance and control systems like SCADA systems and that kind of thing. So we're already plugging into a completely filled ecosystem of companies that can just plug into our stuff and bring print in just as another component in the factory.
It's exciting opportunity, but a lot of development work for you, or is with this smart DFE you've actually created the product? You've actually got this now. This is
yes, we've got it. I would say it will become more and more capable over time. So the OPC connectivity at the moment is relatively basic, but that's fine because it's actually not that difficult to add OPC fields in once that you've got the technology built into your software. But there were a number of stepping stones to get here, and our direct RIP was one of those that has the ability then to take data and actually stream at that press speed, which basically means we are real time. So we can do real time operations inside the RIP, real time changes. We can, for instance, use our print flat technology to correct for nozzle outs or banding in real time. And that was one stepping stone to get to this fully automated smart DFE. And then adding in OPC was another stepping stone, which allowed us then to connect to lots of different things and start to collect data for things like predictive maintenance. So we've got a good start, I would say, into that market, and we have something that's functional and capable, but it will get much more capable over time.
No, definitely. The more data you get, the more it's used. You upgrade it all the time, won't you? That's the wonderful thing with software. You can just upgrade it, can't you?
We can, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, one of the key kind of drivers for, I guess, change more than anything else is that this word mass customization, which I've heard you use before and so on. How do you, what do you mean by mass customization?
Yeah, so there are sort of four levels, I guess, of terminology that we try to link together so that we can give a certain area its name, and people use it in different ways. So the first one will be mass production. So every product comes off the conveyor belt identical. If you're doing cars, they're identical. Henry Ford sort of did. You know, any color as long as it's black. You know, it's that mass production world. That's where we've been for a long time. Then we sort of look at things like mass personalization, and that takes a mass produced product, so it's identical product, and it might print your name onto it, for instance. But the product itself isn't changed. It's just a bit of personalization that's added onto it. And there's a great market for that. So, for instance, you might have pens with the company name on, or it might have just some bit of personalization on it. And then mass customization comes in, which means that the products that come out of the factory are already personalized or already customized to in some way. And I think it was what Volkswagen, I think, was saying that the no two cars that come off the line are the same. So it's basically completely customized products that they may be customized in small ways, or big ways, but they're effectively, you're trying to build something that is unique for that customer. And then finally, you've got bespoke, where effectively, rather than mass producing something, mass customizing something, you've got something that is perhaps done by hand and done to your very specific requirements. But that's not a mass market, that's more of a selective sort of artisan market. But mass customization allows everybody to get just the product they want in exactly the way they want it, but at the same volume production, which allows you to get to the same sort of prices that you would have in mass production.
I see. Okay, yeah. So it's quite appealing. It kind of enables, like you say, certain things that are perhaps short run, special editions, but unique to that specific run, which makes a lot of sense. So that smart DFE that you've kind of explained, which is interesting. Obviously, the OPC as well is a key element. But how would you define a smart factory? And are there many of them out there at the moment? Is the word smart factory is used a lot. How would you define it?
Yeah, so for me, a smart factory, and then for many other people, a smart factory is a factory that does everything fully automated. So from the point that you go into the factory to the point that you come out of it, there is not really any human beings being involved in the production of that item. There will be humans who are overseeing all of the production and making sure that the smarts are doing what they're supposed to do, but they're supervisors at the supervisor level, at the full factory level. What you want is all the components inside that factory to be autonomous, to be able to do their job without necessarily having human beings involved in it. So that then allows you to, and you really want to be automated all the way through. So sort of web to print submission of a carpet that wants to be printed, or a wallpaper, and then you want it printed all the way through the process without a human being involved. And then at the end of it, you want to be able to package it and deliver it to the customer. That one package, that one roll of wallpaper, that one set of tiles, without ever having a human being involved. Which basically means that machines inside the factory have to be autonomous. They have to have intelligence built into them. And also, you want to be able to share data from those so that you can get an overarching intelligence, if you like, an overarching view of how your product, how your factory is working.
And it's obviously your Global Graphics background, where you started, was focused much more on what you call traditional printing, although it was digital, much more around substrates that we're all fairly familiar with, the printing world had been using for a long, long time. All of a sudden now you're talking about industrial. This is a wide spectrum of different industries, different materials, printing on different demands and so on. Is the principle of the smart DFE the same for any sector, or is it you have different editions for different sectors? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there will be different editions there are going to be different editions for different sectors. There will be different combinations of job creation software, different challenges in each of the sectors to do with how things come together. The underpinnings will be the same. So OPC UA, for instance, will be the standard way of communicating, but I think the actual components will change. Which is why you need a common underpinning. But yeah, inkjet is being used for so many different things now. It's truly amazing, and that's probably one of the most exciting areas I think that inkjet is coming into. So you've got everything from sort of traditionally printed onto labels and packaging, which we kind of understand. But then we've got using inkjet to print on tiles, to print on wallpaper, to print on carpets, to print on textiles. Pretty much every kind of decoration of items you can think of is being used by inkjet, but also huge things like being printing onto the back end of a plane, so the tailplane of a plane, painting it white and then printing the decals using an inkjet on a robotic arm. That's all there as well. And then they're using inkjet for 3D printing. So Meteor work with companies which would do 3D printing. They lay down layers of binding solution into powders, and which then get sintered to produce a 3D object. So inkjet's being used there. And also, in some cases, being used to print electronic circuits inside doors, those kind of things. So inside car doors. So rather than having wiring looms, you've got printed circuits using inkjet, printing those wiring looms rather than the wiring looms themselves. So it's becoming a key sort of technology for this mass customization world, where you can effectively print anything you like, as long as you can get the ink and the mechanism right. Then you can use inkjet to print pretty much anything. So yeah, it's a very exciting world, and it's blossoming out of the paper world that perhaps that we saw in the past.
Yeah, and obviously that what you're doing with the smart DFE and how that's working and integrating and helping the whole process work more effectively and efficiently. So you would work with you work with different clients to help them integrate your specific software into their production line. Is that how it works? If a customer approaches you, yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. So my group, I have two groups: the product management group who deliver the products, the technologies, but I also have a technical services group, and we work with individual customers to take our technology and integrate it in, and help them, for instance, with the connectivity type technology, for instance, OPC UA and SCADA systems and those kind of things, and get our printing technology. So it's just part of their system. But yes, we have a services group that is dedicated, if you like, to helping our customers integrate that technology into their systems.
Yeah. And then I assume you then collaborate obviously with Meteor, but then other parts of the entire process for printing.
Yeah, no, exactly. And again, because we've got so many different skill sets in the group, it may well be that working out what the head temperatures are and making sure that they're consistent for a particular application, and that data can come up into global graphics, which we can then display, which we can then also give to hybrid to pull it up into the MIS systems and ERP systems. Yeah, we have so many different skill sets that can be used to integrate a system fully into an overall fully automated system.
Sounds awesome. That sounds brilliant. And I wish you every success with the smart DFE. It's a very it sounds perfect for the times that we're about to move into. I get the sense that we're moving forward towards that smart factory or digital manufacturing, whatever you want to call it, and any tools that can help companies embrace that and expedite it, as I said before, and make it as low risk as possible. With working with you guys, obviously sounds like a good port of call for that on both the software and the strategic level. So thanks so much for joining us, Eric. Very interesting conversation, and obviously we'll look forward to having you back again at a future event. So thank you.